The twin suns of Alindra burned above the shattered capital city. Smoke still rose from the crystal towers, and the once bright streets were now covered in ash and dust. The war had lasted for months, and the Xylarian Empire was losing. The invaders, a brutal force known as the Varric Horde, had pushed deep into the heart of the Empire. Their ships filled the sky. Their soldiers marched through the royal gardens, and the Palace of Light, home to Queen Sarava, was surrounded. Inside the palace, chaos ruled. Guards rushed to seal the doors, servants hid behind marble columns, and the queen herself stood tall in her silver armor, her violet eyes glowing with fierce pride. But even she knew this might be the end. "Your Majesty," shouted one of her generals, his voice shaking. "They've breached the western wall." "We can't hold much longer." Sarava clenched her jaw. "Then we will fall with honor," she said. "Alindra will not bow." The general bowed his head, ready to fight to the last. But before he could speak again, a sudden explosion tore through the palace gates. Metal screamed, fire roared, and the Varric soldiers poured in like a black wave. The queen raised her plasma spear, ready to defend herself when something unexpected happened. From the smoke, a figure stepped out, not Varric, not Xylarian. He wore dull gray armor covered in scratches and burns. His helmet was cracked, his weapon glowing red. He was human. For a moment, the entire hall froze. The aliens had seen humans before, small numbers scattered across the galaxy, wanderers, traders, mercenaries. But none had ever walked into a royal battlefield alone. The human raised his rifle and spoke, his voice calm but filled with command. "Get behind me," the queen blinked. "Who are you?" "Captain Aaron Vale, Terran Expeditionary Force," he said. "And right now I'm the one keeping you alive." Before she could reply, he moved, swift and precise. His rifle burst with blue light, cutting down the first wave of Varric soldiers. His armor systems hummed, deflecting energy bolts that would have killed anyone else. He fought like a machine, but every move carried human determination. The Queen's guards joined in, emboldened by his courage. Together, they pushed back the attackers inch by inch through the burning corridors. "Why are you helping us?" Sarava asked between battles. Aaron reloaded his weapon. "Because you're outnumbered, outgunned, and still standing. That's something worth fighting for." They reached the main throne room just as the Varric commander entered from the other side. The alien towered over them, covered in spikes and armor plates. His deep roar shook the chamber. "You cannot win, Queen of Alindra," the creature growled. "Your people are finished." Sarava stood tall, her spear ready. "Then I'll fall with them." But Aaron stepped forward. "No," he said quietly. "You'll live," he charged, dodging the alien strike. His blade lit up with white plasma as he cut through the Varric's armor. The fight was brutal, but Aaron's movements were faster than the eye could follow. Finally, with one final strike, the commander fell. Silence filled the hall. Smoke drifted through broken windows. The surviving guards looked around in disbelief. Aaron turned to the queen. "The enemy is retreating." "You're safe, for now." Sarava stared at him. "You fought like no one I've ever seen. You could have left us. Why did you stay?" Aaron's helmet retracted, revealing a tired face marked with dirt and scars. His eyes were calm, but there was something deeper behind them, a quiet sadness. "No one deserves to die forgotten," he said. Then, before she could ask more, a tremor shook the palace. The sky outside flashed white as the last Varric ship exploded, but so did the reactor beneath the western wing. "Get everyone out," Aaron shouted. "Now!" The queen hesitated. "What about you?" He looked at the spreading fire and the collapsing walls. "I'll hold the passage. Go." Sarava wanted to refuse, but the urgency in his tone left no choice. Her guards pulled her away as the human ran toward the crumbling gates, firing at the incoming debris and enemies trying to re-enter. Through the smoke, she saw him one last time standing against the storm, holding the line alone. The walls came down. The light swallowed everything. Hours later, when the rescue teams finally reached the ruins, the battle was over. The enemy was gone, and the palace still stood. But Captain Aaron Vale was nowhere to be found. Only his damaged helmet remained, lying beside the cracked royal emblem. Queen Sarava picked it up with trembling hands. The metal was scorched, but his name was still visible. She felt something strange, an ache she couldn't explain. Her general approached. "Your Majesty, there's no trace of him." "Perhaps he was vaporized." She shook her head slowly. "No, he saved us. He wouldn't vanish without a reason." The general hesitated. He was just a human, my queen. Her eyes turned sharp. Then remember this, General. Today, a human saved an empire. She placed the helmet on a crystal pedestal in the royal hall. Every citizen who passed it bowed in silence. Days turned to months. The war ended and peace slowly returned to Alindra. But the queen never forgot the face of the man who had risked everything for her. Every year on the day of the great battle, she stood on her palace balcony, looking at the stars. Somewhere out there, she believed he was still alive. Her advisors told her to move on. Her guard said the past must be left behind. But she couldn't. Sometimes in her dreams, she saw him again, walking through the smoke, turning back to say something she couldn't hear. And when she woke, the silence of the palace felt heavier than ever. 5 years passed. The galaxy had changed. New alliances formed. Old enemies returned. But in the heart of Alindra, the queen still kept the human's helmet by her side. It had become a symbol of hope and courage across her empire. Children learned of the human who vanished. Songs were written about him. Soldiers spoke his name before battle. And every night when the stars shimmered across the royal sky, Queen Sarava whispered a single promise. If he is still out there, I will find him. Unseen by her, far across the galaxy, a single ship drifted in the dark. Its engines were silent, its hull scarred. Inside, a man sat in the dim glow of the control panel. His armor was older now, patched and battered. His face was weary, but his eyes burned with quiet resolve. He pressed a button on the console, and a faint voice recording echoed through the cabin. Captain Aaron Vale. Mission failed. All contact lost, he sighed. Not yet, he murmured. Not until I go back. Outside the viewport, a familiar star glimmered faintly in the distance. The twin suns of Alindra. The human smiled. He set a new course. The Palace of Alindra stood tall again after 5 long years. Its towers gleamed under the twin suns, rebuilt with stronger walls and brighter crystals. The city below buzzed with life. Traders filled the markets, children played in the streets, and the royal guards marched proudly through the gates. Peace had returned, or at least that was what it looked like. Inside the great throne room, Queen Sarava sat upon her silver seat, her royal robe flowing like starlight. She looked every bit the ruler of a great empire, yet behind her calm eyes was a storm that never faded. Every morning, before the first court meeting, she would stop by a small crystal pedestal near the throne. Upon it rested a human helmet, scratched and burned, the same one she had found in the ruins 5 years ago. She would touch it gently and whisper, "Where did you go, Captain Vale?" Her guards never spoke of it aloud, but they all knew. She still remembered him. That day began like any other. Reports of border skirmishes filled the hall, and the council argued about a growing threat, the Scar Dominion, an old enemy that had begun raiding outer colonies again. "Your Majesty," said General Darren, bowing low, "the Scar fleets are massing in the far sectors. They claim they only seek mining rights, but our scouts report military movement." Queen Sarava's eyes narrowed. "They will not cross our borders again." Before the meeting could continue, an officer rushed into the room, panting. "Your Majesty." "Unidentified vessel detected in orbit." The hall fell silent. "Another Scar scout?" asked the general. The officer shook his head. No, my queen, the ship's configuration, it's old. Very old, and it's broadcasting. An ancient code. What code? Sarava demanded. The officer swallowed hard. A human distress signal, Your Majesty. The words hit her like a lightning strike. For a moment, her mind froze. Human here? After 5 years? Put it on the main display, she ordered. A large holographic screen shimmered to life above the council table. Static filled the air, followed by a crackling voice, broken, weak but unmistakably human. This is Captain Aaron Vale, Terran Expeditionary Force, requesting permission to dock. Repeat. Requesting permission to dock with Elindra Prime. The Queen's hand trembled. The sound of that voice, the same tone, the same steady command, it couldn't be. Trace that signal, she commanded. Now. Within seconds, the control officer replied. Signal confirmed. It's coming from a small human vessel. No active weapons, minimal power. It's heavily damaged. The room erupted in whispers. It's a trap, one counselor said. Impossible, muttered another. He died 5 years ago. A trick by the Scar Dominion. But Queen Sarava raised her hand and silence fell. Her eyes never left the screen. Open a secure channel, her voice steadied. This is Queen Sarava of the Xylarian Empire. Identify yourself. A long pause. Then through the static, the voice returned. Sarava, you sound the same as before. I didn't think I'd hear that voice again. The Queen stood. Aaron, is that really you? Another pause. Then it's me. I'm coming home. The docking bay prepared at once. Soldiers lined the walkways, weapons ready but trembling in uncertainty. The Queen herself came down from the throne room, her heart racing. The sound of engines filled the hangar as a small, battered human ship drifted in. Its hull was scarred, one engine barely holding together. It looked like it had crossed half the galaxy on willpower alone. When the ramp hissed open, smoke poured out. Then slowly a figure appeared. He wore armor that had seen too many battles, edges burned, plates repaired with alien materials. His movements were slower, heavier, but there was no mistaking him. Captain Aaron Vale had returned. The Queen froze. The guards stared. Even the air seemed to stop. He removed his helmet and looked around the hangar, his face older, marked with scars, eyes still sharp as ever. When his gaze found the Queen, he smiled faintly. Your Majesty, he said softly, his voice hoarse. Permission to return. Reporting for duty. For a long moment she couldn't speak. The human who had vanished into the fire now stood before her alive. The silence broke when one of her generals shouted, Seize him. We must confirm he's not an imposter. The Queen raised her hand. No one touches him. The soldiers stopped instantly. She stepped forward, her eyes locked on his. 5 years, Captain. Everyone believed you were dead. He nodded slowly. Almost was. Her voice dropped lower, full of emotion she couldn't hide. Where did you go? Aaron looked at the floor, his expression unreadable. That's a long story. He was taken to the royal chambers, not as a prisoner, but as an honored guest. Medical drones scanned him, finding old wounds and radiation marks that spoke of terrible survival. Later that evening, the Queen entered his quarters. He stood by the window looking at the twin suns sinking into the horizon. You shouldn't be alive, she said softly. He smiled faintly. I get that a lot, Aaron. I saw the palace fall. The explosion should have killed everyone left inside. I was caught in it, he said quietly. The shockwave threw me into a broken hyperspace gate under the western wing. When I woke, I was somewhere else. Far outside known space, she stepped closer. Outside known space? He nodded. A dead zone. No stars, no signals, nothing but silence. But there was something there. A station, ancient, abandoned, human-built. Her eyes widened. A human station? From before the Galactic Council? Exactly, he said. I repaired what I could and survived there. I found records, data, things even Earth has forgotten. Old technology. And something else. Warnings. The Queen's heart pounded. Warnings? He met her gaze. The Scar Dominion isn't just attacking for power. They've found something too. Something they want buried. Outside, the night lights of Elindra glittered like stars. But in the Queen's chambers, the silence grew heavy. She took a deep breath. Why didn't you try to contact us sooner? He looked down. The storms around the void wouldn't let any signal through. When I finally got my ship working again, I set course here immediately. You risked everything again. He smiled faintly. Wouldn't be the first time. She looked at him for a long moment. The man she remembered was younger, full of energy and fire. The one standing before her was older, more tired yet stronger in a quiet way. "You shouldn't have come back," she said softly. "You'll only draw danger." "Maybe," he said. "But I couldn't stay away. Not when I heard the scar were moving again." The Queen looked out the window beside him. "You saved my world once, Aaron, and now you return just as another war begins." He turned toward her, his tone calm but firm. "Then I'll save it again." Far across the Empire, the scarred Dominion fleets gathered in the darkness of space. Their warlord growled to his captains. "The human has returned." Just as the prophecy said. The alien commanders exchanged uneasy looks. "Then we strike soon," the warlord said, "before the human teaches them what their kind once was." Back on Elindra, the Queen stood alone on her balcony that night. The stars shone brighter than before. She looked up and whispered, "You came back, Aaron Vale, after all this time." Behind her, he stood quietly, the soft light outlining his worn armor. "I told you," he said gently. "No one deserves to be forgotten." She turned, meeting his eyes. "Then neither will you." As the twin moons rose above the city, the alien queen and the human stood side by side again, two souls bound by battle, destiny, and a past that refused to fade. Neither knew that the next dawn would bring war once more, but this time humanity would not vanish quietly. The palace of Elindra had never been quieter. Even as the twin suns rose over the rebuilt city, a tension lingered in the air. Queen Sarava walked through the corridors with measured steps, her violet eyes reflecting both relief and concern. The human who had vanished, Captain Aaron Vale, was here alive, but now questions pressed on her mind like the weight of the Empire itself. The council hall had been prepared for him. Holographic maps of the surrounding sectors glowed on the walls, showing the Empire's borders, scar patrols, and colonies under protection. Generals and advisors sat stiffly, waiting for the human to explain himself. Aaron stood at the center, his armor patched and battered. Even after 5 years, he carried himself with calm confidence. His eyes scanned the room once before settling on the Queen. "I know what you're all thinking," he said. "Yes, I'm alive. No, I didn't come back empty-handed. And yes, I know some of you doubt me." A murmur ran through the council. One of the generals, Darren, leaned forward. "Captain Vale, your disappearance cost lives. Entire squads of our soldiers searched for you. How did you survive? And why now?" Aaron nodded. "All in time. First, I must tell you what happened after the battle 5 years ago." The room fell silent. The Queen herself leaned in, her heart pounding. "After the explosion beneath the western wing," Aaron began, "I was thrown through a broken hyperspace gate. It wasn't stable, collapsed before I could control it. I traveled farther than I imagined into an empty sector outside mapped space." "What do you mean, empty sector?" asked an advisor. Aaron's expression grew serious. "No stars, no planets, no signals, just darkness. I call it the void sector." The Queen's hands tightened on the edge of the table. "And you survived there?" "Yes," he said simply, "barely. I found an old human research station from before the Terran expansion. It had been abandoned for centuries. Its systems were failing, its AI damaged. I repaired what I could, He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. I had food synthesis, oxygen recycling, power systems, but no way to leave. And no one to contact. The void blocks all transmissions. Any signal sent would vanish into nothing. A guard whispered almost to himself, 5 years. Alone, Aaron's eyes were steady. It wasn't easy. I learned to repair the station, to survive, and to wait. And I found records. Data no one in the galaxy knew still existed. The Queen stepped closer, her voice soft but firm. Records? What records? Information about human exploration, he explained. Old human colonies, lost technologies, even war strategies. Things humans used to do, long before the Galactic Council existed. And warnings. Warnings? The Queen asked again. Yes, he said. The Scar Dominion isn't just after territory. They've discovered ancient human secrets in the outer sectors. Secrets that could make them unstoppable if they control them. I could not let that happen. The Council exchanged uneasy glances. A human who carried lost knowledge, returning at the precise moment a new war was brewing. It sounded almost impossible. Aaron raised a hand. I don't ask for trust blindly. I ask you to watch me. I survived where no one else could, and I learned what your people cannot see yet. If I can help Elindra, and humanity has a role to play, I will. But first, I need permission to access certain research facilities. Only there can I prepare what we need to defend against the Scar. Queen Sarava's fingers brushed against the crystal pedestal where his old helmet rested. You've returned and you ask for resources. How can I be sure you are not leading us into danger? He met her gaze without hesitation. Because I have no other goal than to protect Elindra. And because I returned, not for glory, not for reward, but because I remember. I remember who you are, and I remember what we fought for. She studied him, seeing the lines of fatigue and scars on his face. She could sense the truth in his words. Somehow, against all odds, the man she had trusted 5 years ago still lived, and still carried the same purpose. The Queen nodded slowly. Very well. You will have access, but know this, if you betray us, human or not, the consequences will be severe. Aaron smiled faintly. I wouldn't dream of it. Over the next hours, he walked through the palace research wing, examining star maps, communications arrays, and data banks. Scientists and engineers crowded around, hesitant but curious. Aaron spoke to them in precise terms, blending human strategy with alien technology. He demonstrated a few repairs on ancient Terran devices stored in Elindra's archives, equipment the Xylarian engineers had assumed was useless. Lights flickered, displays came alive, and drones that had lain dormant for decades activated under his hands. Impressive, muttered General Darren. He's making things work we thought were broken forever. Aaron did not smile. These devices aren't just relics. They are tools. They can detect Scar movements, disrupt communications, even disable ships without destroying them. Queen Sarava watched him silently. 5 years had passed, yet the human moved with a calm authority that reminded her of the day he saved her life. And now, he carried secrets no alien had ever seen before. Later that evening, the Queen requested a private audience. She found him in the observation deck staring at the stars beyond the palace dome. You could have stayed hidden, she said. You could have lived quietly, away from this war, away from danger. Why return? Aaron turned to her, his gaze steady. Because some things are bigger than survival. Because when I saw the Scar Dominion moving again, I knew your empire would face threats it cannot see yet. And because someone once saved me too, someone worth protecting. Her throat tightened. You mean Elindra? Yes, he said. And you. Sarava's heart quickened, but she forced herself to remain calm. And if this information falls into the wrong hands? I'll make sure it doesn't, he said. But I cannot do it alone. Your people will need to trust me. And more than that, they will need to follow my lead for a short time. I will guide them, teach them, and fight beside them. She looked out over the city, considering. The memory of the human who had held the line in the palace, who had faced death without hesitation, weighed heavily on her heart. He had returned, not for fame, not for power, but for duty. Finally, she nodded. You will have what you need. And Aaron, thank you for coming back, he inclined his head. I promised once, Your Majesty. And promises are not easy to break. The next few days were filled with preparation. Scientists and engineers worked with Aaron to restore the old human equipment. Soldiers trained under his guidance, learning tactics that combined Xylarian combat skills with human strategies. And all the while, the queen observed him. She noticed the small gestures, how he moved among her people, how he spoke to the young soldiers with encouragement, how he never asked for credit, how he remembered the names of those who had fallen 5 years ago. The palace began to feel alive again, but differently. It felt alive with purpose, with hope, with a strange energy that only someone like Aaron could bring. One evening, as the twin moons rose, Aaron stood at the balcony beside the queen. "Do you ever wonder why humans are so relentless?" Sarava asked. Aaron looked at her and smiled faintly. "We fight because we have to. We survive because someone has to. And we return because we care. Even if the universe forgets us." She turned to him, her eyes reflecting the moonlight. "Then I understand why you came back. Not because Alindra needed you, but because you remembered me." He said nothing, only gazed at the stars, the weight of 5 years of survival behind his calm expression. In that moment, the queen realized something important. The human was not just a soldier. He was a symbol, a reminder that even in the darkest voids of space, courage, hope, and humanity endured. And soon, she knew, the galaxy would witness it once more. But beyond Alindra, in the dark reaches of the Scar Dominion's fleet, alien warlords whispered in fear. "The human has returned," they said. "The one who vanished. The one who survived the void. The one who carries secrets of old humanity." The horizon over Alindra darkened with movement. Fleet after fleet of the Scar Dominion emerged from hyperspace, their ships black and sharp like a swarm of predatory insects. Even from the safety of the royal palace, the queen could feel the tension in the air. Alindra was no stranger to war, but this felt different, calculated, deliberate, and merciless. Queen Sarava stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Radiant Star, with Captain Aaron Vale beside her. For 5 years, she had never imagined seeing him again, and now, watching him prepare her fleets for battle, she realized just how much she had relied on his presence, even before this war began. Aaron traced his finger over the holographic star map. "The Scar are attacking in 3 main waves," he said, his voice calm but focused. "They'll target the colonies first, then the trade routes, and finally your capital. Their goal isn't conquest, it's control of resources they cannot access easily. But they underestimate Alindra's defenses." General Darren frowned. "Even with your knowledge, Captain, their fleets are massive. Thousands of ships, advanced weapons. We cannot match them alone." Aaron shook his head. "Not alone. But we have an advantage. The equipment I brought from the old human station. It can give us that edge. If we strike carefully, we can disrupt their communications, disable their weapons, and hit key command ships before they know what's happening." Sarava studied him, impressed by his confidence. "And you believe this will work?" "I don't believe," he replied. "I know." In the docking bays, Alindra's engineers worked feverishly. Human-designed drones and Xylarian starships moved together in a coordinated dance. Aaron guided the teams personally, his fingers pointing out adjustments, his voice steady as he explained tactics that merged human ingenuity with alien technology. Soldiers who had never met a human before watched him with awe. He spoke little, yet every instruction carried weight. Even the young recruits understood that this was no ordinary soldier. They were witnessing a human who could change the course of a battle alone. In the palace, Sarava observed from a tactical command center. She could see the fear in the eyes of her people, but she also saw hope. And hope, she realized, often came in the shape of someone brave enough to return when everyone else had given up. Hours later, the first wave of the Scar Dominion struck. Their ships glimmered red in the void, firing energy beams that cut across space like lightning. Alindra's fleets responded, but even with the ancient human technology, they were outnumbered. Aaron took command from the front lines, piloting his own ship through the chaos. His movements were precise, calculated, and deadly. He targeted Scar communication satellites first, shutting them down with bursts of energy that disabled enemy coordination. "Captain Vale," shouted a young pilot. "We're taking heavy fire." "Not for long," Aaron replied. He fired a rapid sequence from a small but powerful drone weapon. Several enemy ships shuddered, sparks flying as they went dead in space. From the observation deck on the Radiant Star, the Queen could hardly believe what she was seeing. The human who had vanished, the one who should have been gone forever, now fought alongside her people, moving faster and thinking clearer than anyone else. As the battle continued, Aaron's knowledge of the old Terran technology proved invaluable. He activated stealth drones that cloaked smaller Xylarian fighters, allowing them to strike behind enemy lines. He set traps in hyperspace lanes, delaying reinforcements. "Captain Vale," General Darren said over comms. "How are you doing this? We've never seen such tactics before." Aaron didn't answer immediately. He fired another volley at an incoming Scar battleship, then said calmly, "Years of learning and surviving, humans adapt." The battle raged for hours. Alindra's fleets, guided by Aaron, held their ground and even began pushing back the Scar Dominion. Ships once considered vulnerable now struck with precision. Alien soldiers whispered among themselves. The human was more than a warrior. He was a force that inspired courage. In the chaos of space, the Queen noticed a Scar warship maneuvering dangerously close to the capital. "Captain," she shouted, "if that ship breaches the orbit, the city will fall." Aaron's ship leapt into action. He piloted through a narrow field of debris, dodging beams and missiles, and reached the enemy vessel. With a calculated strike, he deployed a human-designed energy net that immobilized the Scar ship. The warship hung frozen in space, unable to fire or move. The Queen exhaled slowly. "You've saved us. Again." Aaron gave a small nod. "It's not over yet. The other waves are coming." As night fell over the planet, the battle still raged in space. The Queen watched Aaron coordinate attacks, his calm demeanor anchoring her own fears. Even when the enemy managed to penetrate Alindra's outer defenses, Aaron's strategy kept them from reaching the planet's surface. Then came a moment that changed everything. A massive Scar command ship, far larger than any seen before, emerged from hyperspace. It glowed with energy weapons that could obliterate entire fleets in minutes. The alien commanders around the Queen whispered in fear. Even the best Xylarian tactics would be useless against such a ship. Aaron studied the ship carefully. "This is their command node," he said. "Destroy it and the rest of their fleet will lose coordination. We have a chance, but it will be dangerous." Sarava's hand rested on his arm. "And if you fail?" "I won't," he said simply. Using a combination of stealth drones, fighter squads, and a bold direct assault, Aaron led a small strike team straight into the heart of the enemy formation. Xylarian ships followed, trusting his every command. The battle was intense. Energy beams clashed, missiles exploded, and fighters darted through the chaos. Aaron's ship weaved through destruction, deploying devices that jammed enemy weapons and disabled critical systems. Finally, he reached the command ship. With precise timing, he fired a concentrated energy pulse from his modified drone array, striking the command core. The massive ship trembled and exploded in a blinding flash, sending shockwaves through the Scar fleet. The remaining enemy ships faltered. Confused, uncoordinated, they retreated. Alindra's fleets pursued some, while others escaped into hyperspace. The battle was over, and Alindra had won. The Queen stepped onto the bridge, her eyes wide as she approached Aaron. You did it," she said softly. He smiled faintly, exhaustion written across his face. "We did it. Your people fought well, and you trusted me." Sarava shook her head in disbelief. "I never thought I would see you again." "Not after 5 years." Aaron looked at her, calm but honest. "I promised once, and I never break a promise." For the first time in years, the Queen allowed herself a small smile. "Then Alindra is lucky. Lucky to have you back." Aaron glanced at the horizon, his eyes catching the glimmer of the rebuilding city below. "No," he said quietly. "We are lucky that Alindra still stands, and that you still remember." As the ships returned to orbit, the Queen stood beside him, her hand lightly resting on his shoulder. The city glowed beneath them, and Alindra's people cheered from the streets. For 5 long years, they had believed the human who saved their Queen was gone. Now he had returned, not only to fight but to protect, to teach and to inspire. And in that quiet moment, she realized something profound. Alindra's true strength did not lie only in its fleets, its walls, or its weapons. Its true strength lay in the humans who dared to return when the universe expected them gone. Aaron looked up at the stars, the twin moons reflecting in his eyes. "The war isn't over," he said. Sarava nodded. "But with you here, I believe we can face anything." The galaxy watched silently, aware that the human who disappeared had returned. The skies over Alindra were bright with victory. Ships of the Scar Dominion had retreated, scattering into the dark reaches of space. Halindra's fleets returned to orbit, battered but triumphant. And in the heart of the royal city, the citizens celebrated their queen and the human who had returned to save them. Queen Scifi stood on the balcony of the palace, watching the streets below. Crowds cheered, waving banners with the emblem of the empire and the symbol of the human who had become a legend. The memory of the past 5 years, the fear, the loss, the battle, still lingered. But today, hope shone brighter than ever. Beside her, Captain Aaron Vale leaned quietly against the railing. His armor was worn, his face tired, yet his eyes held a calm intensity that had never left him. Children stared up at him in awe, and even the palace guards, trained to face any enemy, looked at him with respect. "You never ask for recognition," Scifi said softly. Breaking the silence, Aaron shook his head. "Recognition doesn't save lives. Actions do." She looked at him, her violet eyes reflecting both gratitude and something deeper. "And yet the galaxy calls you a hero. Elindra will remember you forever." He shrugged, a faint smile crossing his face. "Heroes are remembered only when someone tells their story. I returned because it was the right thing to do, not because anyone would remember." Inside the palace, preparations began for a grand council meeting. The queen wanted to honor Aaron, but she also needed his counsel. The Scar Dominion might have been repelled for now, but they would return. Elindra had to be ready. Aaron moved through the council chambers with quiet authority. He reviewed fleet reports, checked the status of rebuilt defenses, and spoke with the generals and advisors who had doubted him only days before. Each word was precise, each suggestion measured. The alien counselors were impressed. They had faced many strategists, many warriors, but Aaron was different. He combined human intuition with knowledge from centuries past, tactics no alien had ever imagined, and the courage to act when others hesitated. General Darren leaned toward the queen, whispering, "Your Majesty, humans are remarkable. He has changed everything for Elindra." Scifi nodded silently. "He returned when we needed him most. That is why." That evening, Aaron asked to speak with the queen privately. They walked to the palace garden where crystal fountains reflected the twin moons. The air was quiet, carrying the soft hum of the city below. 5 years, Scifi said, her voice low. "I waited 5 years for this moment. For you to return. And now you stand here alive. Why did you come back, Aaron?" He paused, looking at the fountains. "Because I saw someone worth protecting. Someone who trusted me even when I was gone. Someone who never forgot me. That was enough." Scifi felt a warmth in her chest. "I never forgot. Not for a moment. The Empire celebrated your memory, but I remembered you personally. Your courage, your choices, the way you stood alone when everything else fell apart." Aaron smiled faintly, a hint of relief in his eyes. "Then my purpose is fulfilled. I returned not just for the Empire, but for you." She looked at him, realizing that Elindra's survival was tied to more than fleets or weapons. It was tied to humans like him, beings who returned against all odds, who risked everything not for glory but because it was right. Days passed, and Elindra's citizens honored Aaron with festivals and parades. Children dressed as humans in small silver armor, wielding makeshift weapons, pretending to lead armies and save their queen. The queen watched from her palace balcony as he moved through the crowds, greeting soldiers and citizens alike. He never demanded attention, never claimed credit, and yet everywhere he went, hope followed. In private, Aaron worked with the engineers and scientists to integrate the human technology he had recovered. Drones, sensors, and energy devices were tested and deployed to protect the Empire from future attacks. Every innovation made Elindra stronger, and every innovation reminded the Queen why humans were so exceptional. One evening, as the city rested beneath the twin moons, the Queen invited Aaron to the palace balcony. Silence stretched between them, filled only by the gentle hum of the fountains and the distant sounds of Elindra's celebration. "You've returned," she said softly, "and you've given the Empire more than just victory. You've given us hope and something else I cannot name." Aaron turned to her, his gaze steady. "You mean trust?" She shook her head. "More than trust. A reminder that humans are not like anyone else. They fight, they endure, they return, and they remember." Aaron's eyes softened. "I remembered. That is all." Elindra deserved no less. For a moment, the Queen was silent. She thought of the battle 5 years ago, the day he disappeared, and the years she had spent wondering if she would ever see him again. "You saved me once," she whispered. "And now, you've saved the Empire. For that I can never thank you enough." He smiled faintly. "I don't need thanks. Actions speak louder than words." She looked at him and for the first time in years allowed herself to feel the depth of her emotions. "And yet, somehow I feel gratitude deeper than I have for anyone." Aaron said nothing. He only stood beside her, quiet and steady, a presence that radiated both strength and calm. In the following weeks, Aaron became a permanent advisor to the Queen. He trained her fleets, guided her generals, and ensured that Alindra was prepared for anything the galaxy could throw at them. And yet he remained humble. Soldiers who had fought alongside him remembered his quiet courage. Children whispered stories of the human who disappeared and returned, and the citizens of Alindra began to understand what humanity truly represented, a species capable of enduring impossible odds, of returning when hope seems lost, and of protecting not just themselves, but others who cannot save themselves. The Queen watched him often, remembering that day 5 years ago. She remembered the fire, the smoke, the courage, and the choice to stay when everyone else ran. She realized that Alindra's strength now came not only from its people, its weapons, or its walls, but from the human who returned when no one expected it. One quiet night, the Queen and Aaron stood together on the palace balcony once more. The city below slept, and the stars above reflected the twin moons. "You never asked for anything," Scifi said. "Not for reward, not for glory. You just returned." Aaron looked at her, his voice soft. "Because some promises cannot be broken. Because some people, and some worlds, are worth returning to." She nodded, a smile forming on her lips. "Then Alindra is lucky, and I'm glad you came back." He looked at her, the corners of his mouth lifting slightly. "So am I, Your Majesty." "So am I." The two stood in silence, watching the night. The twin moons cast a glow over Alindra, and the city slept peacefully beneath them. For 5 long years the human had been gone. Now he had returned, and the legacy of his courage, his skill, and his unshakable sense of duty would remain forever, because Alindra had not only survived the darkness, it had been reminded why humans were exceptional, brave, resourceful, relentless, and capable of returning when the universe thought they were gone. And in the quiet of that night, Queen Scifi realized one final truth. The human who had saved her, who had vanished and who had returned, had changed her life and the fate of Alindra forever. The galaxy watched silently, knowing now that humans were not only survivors, but legends, capable of shaping the fate of worlds, of inspiring hope, and of returning when hope seemed lost. And somewhere deep in the stars, the human who had once disappeared smiled, ready for whatever the universe might send next.